Hi everyone. We're going to talk about refugees and or undocumented learners. Refugees students in the last 5 years in the United States. In 2016 was the year where the United States took about 84,988 refugees. 48 of them were school ages, and only 31% in 2019 were enrolled into school, and only 3% of refugee students are currently enrolled in higher education. Of the 19.9 million refugees in our care in the United States, only 7.4 are school ages. Their access to education is limited, with 4 million unable to attend a school. We also have the undocumented students in the last 5 years in the United States. Estimated number of undocumented immigrants in USA range from 10.5 millions to 12 millions, or approximately 3.2% to 3.6% of the population. Undocumented immigrant students make up about 2% of all the students enrolled in the United States with a higher education. Researchers estimated 454,000 undocumented immigrant students are enrolled in higher education. When they come to United States, they have to learn a new culture. Everything is new. They have to be involved on everything in here. But many students, many refugees or many undocumented students, they are coming from a bad background. So refugees and undocumented students face many challenges when learning new languages, when learning new culture, when meeting new people. Everything is new for them. Some of the challenges that are facing are having difficulty concentrating in school, either because they thinking about their past, they're thinking about their families, they're thinking about everything else that's going on. They're feeling hopeless, out of control. They're feeling that they're not able to accomplish everything that the teacher is asking for. Inability to get along with others, and especially when in a close relationship, they're not able to get in contact because when we go to school and we know the same language, it's easier for us to go and talk to the others. But when we don't talk the same language, it's a little bit different. There's more information to see about refugees and undocumented learners. Thank you.
All right, our next topic is how to approach and speak with someone who speaks a different language than you. This will not only help you with refugees and undocumented students, but also anyone that you come across that you may have a language barrier with. All right, first up is some to dos when speaking with someone who speaks a different language than you and approaching them. First, try to use simple words. This is the best method to start off with right off the bat because there's a high percentage of chance that you'll be able to understand what you're saying, or at least know that you'll have to find a different method to begin with. Also, be sure to speak slowly because if there is a chance of understanding between the two of you, there's a lot higher chance that speaking slowly would help than if you're speaking rapidly or super fast. Also, accept jumble sentences because they may not be clear like you're used to, but accept that it may come across a little bit different. Alright, if simple words don't work out for you, then move on to trying to do pictures. Hieroglyphics was one of the first ways that humans came to understand each other and understand what each other are trying to say. So pictures would be a great way with using some common symbols like smiley faces to show happiness or hearts to express affection. Keep it lively and fun between each other. Another way to express how you're feeling is through gestures. Body language can be a way to show how you're feeling by simple thumbs up or pointing somewhere. This way, be cautious though, because different countries use different gestures, so this isn't the most reliable way. Another method to try would be writing down what you're trying to say. Though there may be a language difference, you may be able to still understand what the meaning is phonetically. Ideally, though, you would want to know some sounds and pronunciation of their alphabet first. So this method would not work very well if you do not have that knowledge beforehand. Alright, and lastly would be using the resource that we have at our fingertips or palms almost entirely throughout the day, and that is iPhones and online resources. This is a way and method that I didn't see commonly talked about in articles I researched, but I think it's one of the most beneficial and easiest ways to talk with someone that speaks a different language than you by using Google Translate or any other translating app that you can easily see what they're communicating and communicate back and forth. There are still some cons because you're not able to learn that new language or connect with them in that way. I still find this the most beneficial way, and I think it's a great resource that we should utilize since technology is improving every day. All right, now is some things not to do when talking to someone with a language barrier than you. Do not patronize, criticize slow learning skills, answer in English when you know they cannot understand your language, turn body languages into an all-out game of charades, be sure to be respectful and useful, don't teach new words improperly or in slang, laugh at anyone that's trying to learn, or roll your eyes or act annoyed or bothered when trying to learn and understand from one another. Overall, be respectful. Everyone is just trying to learn here. Be sure to practice in reviews, and within time, you can be able to communicate easier. Be patient and be open to trying different methods that work. Who knows, you may be able to learn a new language and make a new friend at the same time, which is beneficial for all. Our next topic is understanding the past of refugee students and some ways to help them cope through their trauma. The first way you need to be able to do this is by truly understanding what they've gone through so that you're more able to use that information to help with coping strategies and know how to best help them. All right, first is understanding and recognizing these stressors. Refugee students often have trauma from their past experiences like pre-migration or resettlement. These students could have been exposed to violence, combat, home displacement, detention, torture, forced to leave homes without chance of returning, malnutrition, loss of parents, etc. Often they are relocated in low-income and poverty towns. Knowing these stressors beforehand can help you understand the severity of their situation and to have some empathy and cautiousness when it comes to any videos or lesson content that may include any of these things. Now is understanding how these stressors affect schooling. Stress, adversity, and trauma can conflict with the student's concentration, cognitive functioning, memory, and social relationships. Due to stress, these students may have internalized symptoms such as anxiety, depression, grief, fear, anger, or isolations. They may also have externalized behaviors such as startled responses, aggression, and contact problems. Take these items into account when not only comes to lesson planning and classroom environment, but when it comes to their actual schoolwork and knowing they may need some extra help or time. Next is understanding challenges or relocation and acculturation. Refugee students often have to adjust to life in new communities and school, which often brings more challenges for these students, such as language barriers and differences, not understanding how school functions, or not knowing where to turn for help, not feeling safe, or not familiar with curriculum or social morals, and a difficulty in social life and making friends. There is a heightened sense of isolation for these students. There can also be conflict over time between students and their parents if the child deviates from tradition from this new location. Now we move on to ways to support. Equip staff to provide trauma-sensitive response and support. Having trauma-sensitive schools enhance supports for all traumatized students, including refugees. In a trauma-sensitive school, they view behavior as a potential outcome of life circumstances, rather than a willful disobedience or intentionally misbehaving. They focus their school staff to understand the impact of trauma on school functioning and try to teach staff to see behavior this way. By a great focus on building trusting relationships between peers and students are able to start regulate their behaviors, emotions, and attention. Try to engage and empower families. Talk with and engage with families from other countries. They may have different views on education or different ways of doing things from where they're from, but by talking, you're able to get on the same understanding with one another. You are also able to find out and learn any barriers they may be facing. Some examples would be not being able to pay for school lunch or no way of transporting their kids to school. The teacher then can direct them to a resource that can help any challenges they are facing. Focus on student strengths. Refugee students may have unique skills and strength and knowledge that you can use to yours and their advantage to benefit everyone involved, including peers. Encourage these students to share their knowledge about their country, customs, and culture if they would like to, and embrace their culture and try to learn the best way you can support them. Access to community resources. Reach out to any community or international support groups for refugee families and students. If you're able to have this information already, when they come to you with questions or help that is out of your support area, you are able to be more knowledgeable about the situation and the best ways to help and send them to where these resources are to get the best help. Stop any type of harassment or bullying immediately. Be sure to keep an eye out for any harassment that may occur to refugee students, since they may be at high risk for harmful behavior by classmates or even by teachers who have previous or current biases towards refugees. Make your classroom and rules clear that any harmful behavior in any form is never accepted and there will be serious and real consequences. Promote acceptance in your classroom and help to teach conflict resolution skills between classmates. Thanks for listening, and next up will be some more topics about refugees and undocumented learners.
Hi, I will be expanding on the 3 topics I will talk about. One being teaching advice for refugee students, The tips that were given were to understand and recognize stressors, understand the effect of trauma, equip staff to provide trauma-sensitive responses and support, and understand the challenges of relocation and acculturation. The second being, what are solutions that teachers can take with complications of diverse refugee students? Some examples are show that diversity is welcomed, let students know that you appreciate them and not feared, as well as providing a stable, comforting environment and be available to listen. The third being tips on teaching students of refugee backgrounds. We can provide access to tutors for refugee students. Extra academic help may be very beneficial for a refugee child. This all ties into why refugee education is so important. It is because education helps refugees stand on their own feet, allowing them to prepare for the future, whether that is a host country or their own country when they return, if they ever decide to. I think it is important to make sure everyone has a chance to be educated and especially to be treated equally and fairly as other students. This also ties into multicultural education because we have to make sure we are including every student and make sure they all feel welcomed and they all feel like they can express themselves. This is an important topic to talk about and us as educators to be aware about because it is a problem that many refugee students still face today and sometimes feel discriminated, so we must understand how to make sure to teach those students who can be somewhat a challenge to teach.
So I found this really good story about a church group that organized a hike in the desert and decided to include some of the refugees' youth. They just were trying to get this to be a fun little way to help them make friends and feel more included and part of our environment and community. But a couple days into the hike, it turned out that it reminded them of a time when they were forced to flee their homes. So instead of having this be a kind gesture, it turned out to be re-traumatizing for them. And this just shows how easy it is for these kinds of culture misunderstandings to take place and how really supportive environments are important. We need to understand and recognize stressors. Refugees' children are often traumatized from resettlement experiences, and we need to understand how effects these are, understand the trauma of these effects. Extreme stress and trauma can actually harm memory, social relationships, and cognitive functioning. So as teachers, we just really need to understand and recognize these. We also need to help them with funds, because oftentimes refugees and other students have hard times with funds for education and other things like that. So here are just a list of a couple things that will help them with that, mainly scholarships and loans, so things like that. But yeah.
Career and future options for refugee students. Refugee students are just as diverse and the same as other students in the classroom and want to be helped and treated the same as other students. Therefore, refugee students should be able to have the same goals and aspirations as everyone else in the classroom. It is our jobs as educators to strive and set the goals and future as high as they can imagine. To help younger students through any emotional and physical needs is one thing an educator to do for refugee students, but another thing is I can recommend the Refugee Career Pathways program that works with refugees of any age, education, degrees, and career pathways. Next, connection to diverse peers. Connections in school are often essential building blocks that have to help create as educators. And being a refugee student, there might be some hardships that befall these select group of individuals. Supporting refugee students and creating friendships and bonds will help both the students' learning and involvement in the classroom. We must help identify as students at risk of stressors within the family and education as we support the unique educational strengths that they possess. What to do if complications arise. Students of all ages are prone to judgment and mischaracterization of students who are different. Refugee students specifically are prone to emotional stressors due to relocation and stressful times for them in the new place. Even at times, there is strict language and educational barriers that, as educators, is our job to maneuver and nurture. It is our strict job to shut down any bullying, harassment, and conflict, as well as try to promote a culture of acceptance and conflict solution. An inclusive environment will help in all other factors listed above, and again, will help with the emotional and physical support of the diverse students. Thank you for watching our video. As said here, refugee students are diverse. They come as they come, and it has been an amazing experience learning all about how to teach and support refugee students, as well as learn a lot about the challenges that arise from this diverse group of individuals. We are excited to teach these students and feel just that much prepared.